met a gypsy.
I'll never forget Gary and our CFO fly out on his jet, French Valley, come over and see Brian and Marisa and I and sit there. Gary comes from the music industry. He's an entertainer. He created the Miller Blind Day program with music and Miller.
Yeah.
Miller's still their client to this day because of it. He built that whole thing. That's how visionary this guy was. And he's the guy who brought me over to build this. So he had this vision. And then I bring Brian to the table as the first guy in action sports. And I'm like, you got to, and they come out, and it was Brian's old compound, nothing like the new one. And we put on a jump show, and they're just like, this is your guy. We're on board. Let's bring Brian on to be the first for us. And the rest is history. And that's what got us going, was that it was timing, opportunity.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we joke about when we put that deal together with Rockstar. I wish we had the napkin. I was talking to Steve Mateus recently over at Rockstar, and he's like, Walker, God, if we had that napkin that we outlined this deal on, it would have made it. I go, dude, that's one for the archives. Because literally, we sat at Huntington Beach Pier. I think it was December 23rd, December 22nd. It was right before Christmas. We all got together, me, him, and Brian, and frickin' nailed it right then and there of what Rockstar and Militia would become. That's one for the history books and action sports.
And so what do you think that did for the sport in general? Like, what do you think? Because I don't think people would understand, like, the magnitude of someone like Brian and the Metal Militia working with that company and having, not Rockstar, but, like, the representation behind it, like, the deals that company's, like, that's
How about Ford Motor Company?
Yeah,
we brought the Metal Militia was part of Ford's activation at X Games for 3 years in a row. Whoever thought I remember working with the Militia marketing team, and they're like, dude, we're with Ford Motor Company in front of the Staples Center with everybody signing autographs, and we did a Militia wrapped Ford Fiesta giveaway. And then it became the Octane Academy that we created with them with Brian.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoever would have thought that? And I got to tell you, the things that we had to go through in convincing Ford Corporate and Ford Legal because of those Militia marks and what people thought.
Yeah, the stereotypes,
the connotation
of
those marks. And back then we were getting, like, I remember we were joking about this recently, like the California school district were kicking kids out or taking their shirts off them because you couldn't come to school wearing a Metal Militia t-shirt. And I'm like, this is the greatest marketing ever.
Yeah.
Every kid in the world's going to want this shirt now if the schools don't want them wearing it. Right?
Yeah. It's so true, eh? It was such a huge movement.
Oh, God, that was the heyday. We had so much fun. There were so many cool deals. The licensing things that we were doing.
Yeah.
Who would think that skull would become so cool and iconic globally? That skull. I mean, talk about hitting pay dirt. Brian and Larry nailed it.
And so, like, it's funny because there's this whole generation now, or this whole, like, modern generation of people that think of him as, like, the mini dad, like Hayden's dad, you know? And it's like the level of operator that he has to be to build those companies and to make those deals and to, like, be the guy that could actually carry that is like, dude, that's not a mini dad. Like, that's a fucking business genius right there.
You want to know how I describe Brian Deegan on Madison Avenue? Gene Simmons. He is Gene Simmons. He is a marketing machine, a visionary. I've been with Brian a long time, right? A lot of meetings, a lot of conversations, and he thinks at things so differently, both as a marketer and as a competitor. Really, really, I commend him for how deep he dives. Like when he made the decision to go from, you know, when the freestyle world was winding down for him, and he didn't want to not be relevant, and he's like, I want to, what's next, you know? And fortunately, you know, X Games had rally car, it was just coming.
Yep.
And he's like, I want to get in this rally car thing. I'm like, wow, Brian, you're a freestyle guy. Like, race a rally car against these Euros? Like, we're from Nebraska. Like,
yeah,
we drove on some dirt roads and stuff, but
This is a whole different deal.
This shit's gnarly. And we started working Rockstar, and Rockstar supported him wholeheartedly. They believed in Brian. They got behind him. And Brian didn't just get in the car and drive. He went out and tested. He spent his own money. He bought books on the mental side of racing. Like, this guy's got notebooks and notebooks upon notebooks of notes from racing and the mental side of racing. And he's outworked everybody, in my opinion, because of this. He is really, really smart and looks at things differently. Whether it's 4-wheel or 2-wheel or even marketing and licensing, he's got an incredible eye, you know, from a creative standpoint with all the merch. Like, look at all that militia merch, and now it's his merch, Hayden's merch. Like, Brian's got an incredible eye and a good feel for what's next. And I've worked with a lot of great marketers that don't have that. A lot of great racers, you know, most racers don't have the marketing side. It's like, God dang. Like, how hard is it to be a great racer and be marketable? But obviously it's difficult because we don't have many.
Right? No,
like,
we don't.
It's like,
and even the ones we think are going to be great at it aren't.
No. But Brian's understood that. You know, you hear his stories from, you know, when he met Mark Hall at the X Games in '97, and, you know, the Hanson's deal started, and how he looked at ESPN and the media value and what the media could do, and good versus bad, dark versus, you know, I've always looked at it as, you know, Travis Pastrana was Luke Skywalker, and Brian Deegan was Darth Vader in the Metal Militia.
Yeah,
you know,
great analogy.
You got iconic characters, and that's why when I'm selling ad agencies or corporate brands and I'm trying to explain Brian and the family to him in the Metal Militia, I'm like, this is Gene Simmons of the KISS Army.
Yeah.
He's the general. Brian Deegan is your Gene Simmons. He's the face, he's the voice, he's the badass, he's the gnarly dude. And he's the marketing guy behind the scenes, just like Gene is. Gene's an incredible businessman. Look at all the licensing that Gene's done.
Yeah.
He's the brains behind that band. Brian's the brains behind Militia. And it was interesting, you know, and it was his idea to do Deegan 38, you know, to create something different from Metal Militia that was more mainstream, because that edge doesn't fit with a lot of corporate brands. And we had a lot of challenges. Like,
a lot of yeses, but a lot of no's.
We lost a deal that would have changed Supercross forever. I won't mention the brand, but a lot of people who are listening to this will know what I'm talking about that are close to me. But it was with the Factory Connection team, and it would have, this corporate sponsor would have changed everything. And we went in to sign the deal. Literally went in to sign this 3-year deal, and they looked at the catalog, and the guy looked at the logos, and he had a negative connotation of what he associated it with. Threw the catalog at me and said, "I don't care what you say this stands for. I don't believe it, and we're not sponsoring you." And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. Like you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
And so those things have happened, and like, let's cleaner, more mainstream. That's where Deegan 38 started to come from.
Yeah.
But again, it's Brian's vision and a feel for the marketplace.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.